Will he, won't he? This is something we could say for both teams. Zaha, Arnautovic, will they both play? Will they both, one be suspended, one make the bench? We don't know. Richard, Crystal Palace, West Ham travel to Selhurst Park on Saturday. 3 PM kickoff. It's good to have a 3 PM kickoff back again. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm buzzing after the Liverpool result. Thought we were absolutely fantastic. It was a great bounce back after the disappointment at Wolves. And I think the fans really needed that, I think the players needed that more, just to get the fans back on side, to show that they wanted to fight for the badge again. And now we head to Palace, where we've got a decent record. We're unbeaten in 7 against them, and they've struggled against us at home in the last 4. They haven't got any good results against us. So I'm feeling quietly confident, I must be honest. We seem to turn it on when we go to Selhurst Park. But now it's just a question of whether Zaha plays or not. And Stal, I was speaking to you earlier. Do you think he's going to appeal his ban? Do you think he's going to play?
I think he will appeal it just to play, to be honest with you. I don't know what game Palace have got coming up after us, but I think he'll want to play against West Ham. He gave us a bit of a torrid time, didn't he, last season in that 2-2 draw. Yeah. He got that last-minute equaliser. We all know the outcome of that. And so my gut will tell me that he will appeal it. We were sort of chatting earlier about how this whole appeal works, because I thought he'd appealed the original two yellow cards, which is why he got the yellow card, and now he's appealing. So I'm not quite sure, but yes, I think he will appeal, and I think he'll probably play on Saturday. Absolutely.
Richard,
go on, mate. Go on.
How important is Zaha to Crystal Palace?
He's massive. I think he's their best player, in my opinion. I think he's got 4 goals this season. He's chipped in with a couple of assists. Personally, I think if he wasn't to play, I don't think it would be a train smash for them, because they've got someone like Batshuyai that they can throw straight into the starting lineup, and he's someone that I feel will be hungry to score goals. But he is everything for them. You look at last season, as Stal mentioned, we were cruising 2-0 up at half-time, and they came back and Zaha tore us to shreds and put in the bottom corner. He's always a tricky player. He's someone that the likes of Ogbonna have to be careful. I mean, any little touch in the box and Zaha will go down. So we need to make sure we're absolutely alert, because he does love a dive. I can't stand him. So hopefully we keep him in check. But they have other threats as well. You look at the likes of Andros Townsend. He's been excellent in the last couple of games. So I think in the past they relied on Zaha a lot more than they do now. They've brought in some good players in the transfer window, so they're more well-rounded.
Still, do you agree with Richard there with regards to Roy Hodgson's business in the transfer window, and just in general what he's trying to build at Palace? I mean, are they contenders for relegation, or are they above that standard? Or
I would have said that they would have had another season toying with relegation. But Hodgson, it's interesting. He's quietly done his business, hasn't he? And he has over the last season or so started to bring in, quality players. I think there's quite a few teams in the Premiership that wouldn't mind, Batshuyai, Zaha, and Townsend as their front line. They're not bad players. And as much as I agree with Rich with Zaha, Zaha goes down, very lightly at the touch of a feather. You can't deny his quality. Now, I think that's what's really disappointing with players like Zaha. They've got the quality. They don't actually need to go down. And he proved that last season when he scored that goal against us in the last minute. And it is disappointing. And I think Hodgson's done well to bring back Batshuyai in for 160k a week, if that's what it really is. I know we went in for him as well, and there's a lot of fans that were disappointed. But you know what? I wasn't really that upset, because we've tried 3 or 4 times now to get him, and 3 or 4 times he's turned us down. So he doesn't want to come. He doesn't want to come. So let's forget about him. I think we just got to keep him quiet and keep all the other attacking options quiet. I think our right back and our left back on Saturday are gonna know they've been in a game.
Yeah, we will come on to West Ham in a minute, and we're obviously talking about Crystal Palace here. We're potentially coming up against a couple of West Ham ex-players. I think Kouati missed the victory over Fulham last weekend, and Tompkins. Richard, West Ham are, every fan all over social media is debating, or just in general, if you're in your groups you're in and having chats with West Ham fans that, you know, we're weak in that department? Is that just something that... I think we always talk about Tompkins when we come onto these shows and when we come up against Crystal Palace. Would you like to see a James Tompkins still within the West Ham squad?
It's a difficult one because he's West Ham through and through, and when he left, I was quite surprised, to be honest. I didn't expect him to go, and obviously Bilic didn't fancy him at the time. I don't think he's going to play on the weekend. It looks like he's injured. Him and Cech are both out, and they've been the aerial threat. They've won the most aerial duels for Palace this season, so that might just give us a chance at set pieces. Someone like Tompkins, though, I always loved him at West Ham. He did have the odd error in him, but I thought he was solid. And I think in today's market, to get someone like Tompkins for, what was it, 10 million, I think that's quite a steal. So yeah, it was a strange one at the time, but obviously we've got Diopin, a younger version, I think, with a lot of potential. Obviously, Oggy's up and down every now and then. I'm not going to start on Ogbonna. Let's not do that. So I think he's someone that I'd like to say... What do I say about Tompkins? I mean, he was decent at us. He's gone. He's not going to play. So what more is there really to say about him, to be honest, Ant?
Yeah, no, that's cool, mate. Stel, we're talking about players coming back. I don't know if we've lost Stel, but you still there?
I'm still here, mate.
Yeah,
I don't know if you can see me, but I'm still here.
You know, Christian Benteke's coming back. They've got Batshuyai, they've got Ayew, they've got a kind of decent attacking forward line. What is it about Palace that we should fear the most, Stel?
If all those players are going to play, and if they gel together, then that would be quite a potent strike force, attacking force. And I think we've got to do what we did against Liverpool. I mean, we were up against three of the best strike attacking players in the Premier League on Monday night, and we kept them quiet because we kept our defence tight, we kept our midfield tight. You know, our defence moved in when we were under attack, our midfielders moved in. We created that proper sort of a two-line defensive strategy, and it worked for us. And I think what we've got to do is keep them equally quiet. The likes of Salah are a lot better than the likes of Benteke, etc. So if we managed it on Monday, you know, there's absolutely no reason why we shouldn't manage it against Palace. You know, it's going to be ain't going to be easy. You know, because they will carve out chances. But kind of with Rich earlier, you know, they kind of relied on Zaha quite a lot in the past. And now they've got, you know, players like Townsend, etc. If we stop them sort of providing the ball to their front line, to Batshuyai and Benteke, then I think we'll do okay. We just got to be on our game, you know, and we've got to... Yeah, there was talk about the team being up for, you know, talking about being up for the bigger games, you know, and kind of being quite complacent about the teams around them. Well, here's a team that's around us that if we beat on Saturday, we're going to shoot up the table yet again, ironically. But if we lose against them or if we draw against them, we're going to stay thereabouts with them. And I think we're actually better than Palace as a whole. You know, so we should, you know, we should just cut out that attacking force. Make sure that Zaha and Townsend don't get enough time on the ball on Saturday.
Both teams potentially have a bit of momentum. West Ham come off a great result against Liverpool. Unfortunately, for me personally, I think we should have got the 3 points with that terrible offside goal. And Crystal Palace beat their fellow London friends in Fulham 2-0. So both teams are coming into this game with momentum. Rich, how does that play into it?
I think it's going to turn the game. I think it's going to make it into an open game, if I'm honest. Every single time we've played Palace, it's always been a dramatic fixture. There's always been penalties. There's been lots of goals. I mean, we've beaten them 3-1. 2 of the last 3 games we've played at Selhurst Park. So we do enjoy going there. They're full of confidence after their results. I know it is Fulham, with all due respect to them, but it's a win's a win in the Premier League, and they'll want to build on that momentum. Same with us. Great points against Liverpool, but now all West Ham fans have been calling for consistency. So is Pellegrini, and this is a big, big test for us to show if we can turn a corner, because there's no point getting a point against Liverpool and then losing to Crystal Palace. So we really need to come out of the blocks on Saturday and get a good result, get a good positive result. Because as Stel said, they're close to us in the league. They're only 6 points behind us. If we can get a win, it opens a 9-point gap. and suddenly we're in a different league to Palace. We're suddenly pushing for top 8, and they're looking down beneath them. So we have to go out and get a good result.
Yeah, you said that, Rich. You know, our play against them at their ground is pretty good. You know, in the last 5, we've won 3, drawn 1, lost 1. You mentioned just now the 2-3-1 wins and the 1-0 win when Lanzini scored the goal when Cresswell was controversially sent off in that game before those 3-1. So the last time we lost against them was in December 2013 at their ground. You know, and we got a good record overall. You know, in the 6 previous games we've won 3 and drawn 3. So, you know. And we've improved with the players. I know we've got a lot of injuries out at the moment, but, you know, we brought in some, you know, we've got the likes of Anderson and Nasri. I know he's probably it sounds like he's going to miss the game on Saturday, but, you know, we've improved, and I know we've got a few problems. We've had a few problems with defence, etc. But overall, you know, that's why I'm confident, because our stats against them are good. So I'm with you. You know, I think we've got nothing to fear. You know, with them, we've got to just keep them quiet. We've got players. I mean, look at Antonio. You know, I've been a massive critic of Antonio throughout last season and this season, and now he's starting to find form. So they're going to have to start worrying about our pace as well. Anderson on one side. I would be damn surprised if Antonio doesn't start. You know, have him on the other side.
Yeah.
And so once we break, you know, we keep it compact, and once we break, we've got players that could really, really hurt their defence as well.
There are quite a few players when you do look at Crystal Palace's squad and you think to yourself, do you know what, I'd quite like him. They've played 25 games this season, they've won 7, they've lost 13, scored 26 goals but conceded 33, but they have kept 9 clean sheets. And one game before we start, sorry, I hope that's volume is back in. One game I want to briefly discuss with you guys was Crystal Palace's performance against Manchester City, where they just got beat 4-3. Richard, I mean, when they turn up on their day, they do look really decent.
Yeah, they do. That's the type of football they play. They are a side that is quite open at the back. They are going to concede goals, but at the same time, they love to attack, and they can be quite open going forward as well. That's where I think we can exploit them. You look at our away form. We had a great run in December, and now we've struggled on the road in our last few games. But I think against Palace, we've got to just be as compact as possible and look to play on the break. You look at someone like Felipe Anderson. I know he's running at Wan-Bissaka, who's had a really good season. But I think Anderson against Liverpool, I think he had arguably his best game of the season. Antonio was fantastic as well. So we have to be compact and look at them on the break, because Palace have had some good results. Obviously, the City result, the Liverpool result as well. But as much as they go forward, they are very, very open at the back, and we've got to look to exploit that. And that's what we've done in the past at Selhurst Park. We've sat back, we've let them have a bit more of the ball, but we've absolutely hammered them on the break. And I can see that happening again on Saturday.
Absolutely. Do me a favour, guys, when you're watching the show, make sure you are subscribing to our channel. Let us know your thoughts on the importance that Zaha has for Crystal Palace. Get your comments in below. Let us know. We'll try and engage as much as we can through this live show. It's been a while since we've done one. Also, is there any players at Crystal Palace that you particularly like and would like to see potentially wear the claret and blue of West Ham? We have talked quite possibly enough about Crystal Palace. Let's get on to our beautiful West Ham and the kind of ongoing debate, which is Arnautovic is back, he's fit, he's ready to rock and roll, he's put his statements out, everything's in the past apparently. Versus the Chicharito, who, you know, without boring you guys, I'm his biggest fan. And after his game against Liverpool, he'd done absolutely everything that some fans slag him off for. He fought for the team, he tracked back, he won his aerial battles, he used his strength, he set up some opportunities, he created a few opportunities. What do we do, Richard, with this situation? Do you change a team that's just come off a decent result?
That's a $1 million question, Ant. I really think Pellegrini's got a big decision to make here, and he's got to analyse Arnautovic's body language in the last week. If he sees that Arnie's up for it and he's ready to show us the Arnie of old, I reckon chuck him back in. But if there's anything lingering, and if he's throwing any form of a tantrum, let Chicharito start again up top, because he was fantastic against Liverpool. He had a few chances that I felt he should have hit the target with, But I mean, to be up against someone like Virgil van Dijk and to show his presence in a game like that, so I thought he was fantastic.
And to be fair to those chances as well, they were from distance.
Yeah.
Which is not his game.
Yeah, no, that is true. And I think he had a shot from outside the box. If that had gone in, it would have been his first goal in the Premier League from outside the box. So it's a difficult one. It really is. If we have the Arnautovic from old, then I'd definitely chuck him back in because he can be our maverick on his day and he can be absolutely unplayable. But the last 2 games I've watched Arnie play, he has not been in it at all. So it really depends on his attitude. And Pellegrini's got to gauge that. And then he's got a big call to make on Saturday.
Still?
Yeah, I'm kind of agree with Rich on this. To be quite honest, I'd actually start the team that started on Monday, against Liverpool. I think it will be the wrong message to give to Hernandez to drop him because he did have a good game. I know Arnautovic is meant to be our top boy, but let's face it, lads. You know, he gave that big I am after the Wimbledon game, which was the wrong time to do it anyway. And he said, "I'm back, I'm ready," blah blah blah. Then he had an absolutely shit game against Wolves. He hardly got involved in the game, and then he went off injured. You know, and if he needed to prove anything, he should have proved it when he walked out on that pitch at Molineux on last week. That's when he should have proved it. And okay, it was unfortunate he got the knock. But there you go, just our luck. And we thought at that point he was going to be out injured for the rest of the season. And frankly, I wouldn't start him. You know, I really wouldn't start him. I would keep the team that started on Monday. I will see how that goes. And Pellegrini has done well with substitutes since he's been here. You know, gauge it and then decide. You know, if it's not going right by half-time, bring on Arnautovic on at half-time. Now, if that's going to put his nose out of joint, because he hasn't started, then he's not for West Ham, you know, he's not a team player, you know. And I think the concern with Arnautovic is how much of a team player is he really, you know. And this is his time to prove it and take it. If he's put on the bench on Saturday, he takes it. He accepts that because he's just come back from injury, you know. That's what Pellegrini's done with other injured players throughout the whole season. You know, as soon as they come back from injury, he hasn't thrown them on. He's put them on the bench and then he's brought them in gradually. And I think if we had a really shit game on Monday against against Liverpool, if Hernandez had a really poor game, I would have said fair enough. He had, you know, he didn't show anything, so fair enough, start Arnautovic. But my gut tells me that we've got to be, and I've said this before in other shows, we've got to be bigger than one player. You know, we've got to be a bigger club than one player. And I still won't forget the run we had in December without Arnautovic when we did really, really well. It actually gave Anderson the freedom to play more, if you know what I mean. To sort of like have an opportunity to sort of run more forward and get in the box, etc. Whereas with Arnautovic is waiting for the pass. You know, so...
Still, can we counter that ever so slightly, though, if we mention, or, you know, everyone talks about when a player plays well, you don't drop them. What about the same situation when a player doesn't play well and you supposedly should drop them? Now, let's rewind quite far back into the season when we had our record signing. Anderson went through quite a big run of games, not performing really well, and a lot of people were calling for him to be dropped.
It's different, mate. It's different because
that's what I'm asking.
He was finding his feet, and the fans that were slagging Anderson off early season must have realised that. You know, he came from a league that was slower, so he looked faster because he's fast anyway. But he came from the Italian league. It's slow paced. You know, it takes time to get used to the Premier League, and that's why Pellegrini had faith in him, kept faith in him, and said he'll come good. He'll come good. Now, Hernandez has done nothing wrong. You know, if there's any player that's going to be dropped for Arnautovic, it's going to be Hernandez. You know, because otherwise, unless you play two up front, but then you start looking at, do you drop Antonio or do you drop Snodgrass or do you drop Anderson? And they all played well on Monday.
And they did still, but I just want to kind of bring it back again to when we hit that run of games where Pellegrini did change the style of play. And, you know, this is us going back to this whole... We had that run of 10 games. We performed really well with the teams in and around us. And out with a couple of games that are coming up, we do have another couple of run of games coming up with teams in and around us. Do you think Pellegrini's got that ability to be able to change it and manage these players? Therefore, the question I'm asking you is there an outside chance that he could start with 2 up top?
He could, but then, as I've just asked, who would you drop if he does? Because the next likely candidates to drop will either be Snodgrass or Antonio.
Yeah.
Now, I haven't been a big fan of Antonio, but he ran his balls off on Monday night. He did really, really well. He's back to fitness. He looks lean. He looks leaner. He looks fitter. He looks happier. So do you drop him? Snodgrass ran his arse off. And we've said Snodgrass is a bit of a workhorse, but he ran his arse off against Liverpool. Do you drop him? One of those two are going to get dropped if you put Arnautovic and Hernandez up front.
And I suppose this comes back to the original argument about West Ham shouldn't be a one-man team. But are we at the stage where we can manage these players' egos? To move to the next stage, you have to be able to withstand a squad of top-notch quality players, give them the game time that they need. But we're not at that stage yet, Richard. What is your thoughts on that? Everything we've said there about Arnautovic and Chicharito and Egos and Anderson and Antonio and Snodgrass and all these players.
Yeah.
And just before you say that, add into the mix when Lanzini comes back, when Yarmolenko comes back, for the first time at that point, we will see a West Ham that has to manage egos. And how will we move forward with that?
It's always difficult for a manager to make everyone happy. Going back to what Stel said with Chicharito, I completely agree. You've got to set a precedent. You can't chuck Arnautovic straight back into the side because Chicharito must have been looking at the whole Arnautovic situation from the outside, going, I'm sitting on the bench week in, week out. This guy doesn't even want to play for West Ham, and now he's getting chucked straight back in. Now, what does that say to the rest of the squad? So I completely agree with Stel. I'd start Chicharito. Let Arnie come off the bench and be an impact sub. And if he sulks as coming off the bench, then as Stel said, he's not for us. And then shunt him out in the next window. He's got to be a team player. He cannot expect to come straight back into the side, especially after the performance he had against Wolves and the fact that he's picked up an injury. You don't want to rush him straight back in and then he picks up another knock and he's out. We've got Lanzini coming back hopefully soon. Yarmolenko maybe towards the end of the season might get some game time. But I think Pellegrini's done really well managing egos this season. He hasn't taken any crap from anyone. In the past, sometimes our managers would get trodden over by players with big egos. But you know what? Pellegrini's got to have balls. And for me, he's got to start Chicharito and put Arnie on the bench. Let him come on and cause some havoc towards the end of the game.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I agree. I think, it's going to really set, I said it already. It'll send out the wrong message, not only to Hernandez, but it'll send out the wrong message to the whole team. If let's say we now have a full squad, in say a month's time, we've got Lanzini, Yarmolenko, etc., and he's got to make a choice. Now, if Antonio and Snodgrass and Hernandez continue to play well, and then all of a sudden Pellegrini goes, "Thanks, lads. Come on, Lanzini, you're in. Come on, Yarmolenko, you're in straight away." It's sending out the wrong message, and it is about how you manage your players. And Rich is absolutely right. He really managed the whole transfer fiasco with Arnautovic really well. He basically turned around and said, whilst you're here, you're playing for West Ham. If the right offer comes in and we can get another player, we'll let you go. But until that time, you're a West Ham player. And that is exactly the way to treat him, whether he's a 40, 50 million pound player or whether he's a 10 million pound player. Makes no odds. The process is exactly the same. So, let's see. If Arnautovic throws a strop, if he's benched, then that tells us everything we need to know about him, to be honest.
Absolutely. And if he was putting in great performances, then he's got every right to be upset on Arnautovic. But the fact of the matter is he hasn't been performing. The Wolves game, he was poor. Before that, he was poor. Yeah. And at one point, I thought Arnautovic was untouchable. I thought every time he came into the team, he'd just be absolutely fantastic. And what I used to love about him is he used to chase down every single ball. He looked hungry. He was literally up in every defender's face game after game, and I haven't seen that recently. So he can't have any complaints if he's on the bench. He cannot have any complaints. Yeah. So I hope Chicho starts.
Get your comments in below. Let us know what your thoughts are on the Chicharito-Arnautovic debate. Would you play them together? Who would you start after Chicharito's performance against Liverpool, or the returning Arnautovic from injury? Another player coming back and is available for selection is Samir Nasri. We've pretty much, it sounds like we're not going to go too far in depth about that because you two have made up your decision on whether we change the team or not. But let's just go on to something else that's quite positive, and it's the fullback positions of Fredericks and Cresswell. I'll put this one to you, Stel, first. After the game on Monday night, what was first and foremost? I know you don't think there should be any changes, but what was your thoughts? What was your thoughts on the fullbacks?
I'm laughing because if you'd been at the game on Monday night, it was the 92nd minute or whatever it was. And a substitution was being made for Masuaku was coming on for Anderson, and in the Bobby Moore low we were all going, don't do it. So I'm so relieved that Cresswell is back and he's looking.
Oh, he was great.
Good. He had a really good game on Monday night. I mean, it's the Cresswell. It's really ironic. All these players, Antonio, Snodgrass, Cresswell, all these players that just look lost for so long, all of a sudden are finding their form, and that's got to be the Pellegrini effect. And it was really good to see. And then on the other side, Fredericks has been out for so long with an injury, and he had a dodgy start, Fredericks. He was a little bit shaky at first, but he got into it and he looked good, and he was a threat. When we broke up their play, really happy.
And you mentioned that about Fredericks there, but we have to give him some. He's come back from quite a bad injury, and it's going to give him a bit of game time. So he did have a bit of a shaky start, but my word, in my opinion, he massively made up for that. He more than enough made up for those two tiny, potentially threatening errors that he made. Richard, anything to add on the fullback positions?
Yeah, I share the exact same views as Stel. I thought Cresswell was very, very good. We forget how good his delivery is from the left-hand side. That's something that we've missed. Every time he overlaps, you know what you're going to get with Cresswell. He's going to whip a ball in behind. Yeah. And Fredericks offers us that pace on the right-hand side that we don't have with Zabaleta. Every time he makes an overlapping run, he's going to be giving their left-back a problem. And I agree. He did start off in a shaky manner. Every now and then he did overcommit, and he was a bit out of position. But you got to give the lad credit. He's just come back from injury, put in a good performance.
But Richard,
you can't expect him to be
his lightning pace. He is lightning. So, albeit when he made a couple of errors, when he did his tracking back, he was back. There was no one that really that he couldn't get back to be honest. So that's a positive sign. And for me personally, and something I want to say to you, has him coming back given us the boost? And because Zabaleta, in my opinion, has been a fantastic professional player for West Ham. I wasn't as massive fan last year. I thought he was, making a few errors here, there and everywhere, but come to the end of the season, he came out of his in his own and showed us what he was capable of. The last few games though, and for me personally, when Zaba has played, I found him a bit shaky, a bit committal, like you were saying there, Richard, but couldn't get back. Still, how important is it to have, or is it important to have Fredericks getting game time over Zaba?
No, it's very important because let's be honest, lads. Zabaleta is no spring chicken, and game after game after game has taken its toll. And as you've seen, what Pellegrini's tried to do is try to give him a bit of respite by playing Antonio at right back. So that Zabaleta could have a little bit of a breather. And I think Pellegrini is mightily relieved that Fredericks is back, and Fredericks has looked good. It's only one game. He's got to do the same again and again. But it's a massive relief because it now gives Pellegrini the opportunity to say, right, this type of game needs a Zabaleta in it. This type of game needs a Fredericks in it. And he'll be able... That's what a squad's all about. That you've got, two players in every position where the manager can go, you're playing in the same position, but you offer something slightly different. So I'll play Zabaleta in this game and I'll play Fredericks in that game. And I was really surprised when Fredericks started on Monday. I was like, oh, okay. But then when you saw what his game plan, what the game plan he was given, you went, yeah, I get it. you know, and Pellegrini called that really well. You know, so I'm expecting Fredericks to start again because what that will do, if we were talking earlier about the Palace players, it will give Fredericks will be able to keep up with Zaha, basically.
Yeah.
You know, so that is going to be a big bonus, massive bonus.
I think Zaha would have been in for a tough afternoon if he had to deal with the likes of Zaha and Jeff Schlupp as well. They are both lightning fast from Palace, so I think Fredericks trumps them with his pace, and he gives them another. He gives us an attacking option as well. He used to say he can't overlap and get an assist or two. So
yeah, he was overlapping left, right, and centre against Liverpool the other day, and he was really causing their wing backs a lot of problems. And what I loved about the game the other night was the switching of playing the midfielders, where you've seen Anderson drop from the left to the right, right to the left. Same with Snodgrass and even Antonio. They were all, you know, it was like Liverpool at that point couldn't handle West Ham's tactics, and that's what I kind of like, is that Pellegrini can just switch it when he needs to do it. We've got the ability there. We've got the core players there. He is clever. Clever. Do you know what? We have spoken quite a lot. Make sure you get your comments in below. Let us know what your thoughts are on Fredericks and the Zabaleta situation. And of course, Ian Creswell is back. Is he back to his best? Are we judging him based on a couple of games, one game? Or are we judging him on the fact that Masuaku has not had the greatest of games? Let's not talk about our centre halves, because we could go on about it all night. So let's just get on to, we've roughly talked about team selections. Let's just get straight on to the nitty gritty predictions. Before we do it, we are live. Start putting your predictions in the comments, and we'll maybe try and read out some comments before we come out at the end of the night. So get your predictions in below. Richard Fassen, Johannesburg, South Africa, let me know your predictions.
3-1 win to the Hammers. We're going to keep up the trend. We're going to keep up the trend at Sellers Park. I reckon Anderson's going to tear them to shreds like he has been doing. Chicharito's got a good record against them. He scored last time out, so I think he might bag one. And Noble penalty. Why not? So, what do you reckon? What do you reckon, mate?
Well, that's if Noble starts, of course. I mean, you know.
Mr. West Ham, come on.
his place is secure because we've got no one else, have we? So
yeah.
No. Noble had a good game as well on Monday night.
Noble's had a good run of games.
Yeah. He's been all rightish. You know, Rice has made him. Rice has been next to him.
Rice has been brilliant. Yeah.
Rice is just, I mean,
phenomenal.
Let's get your predictions, and we'll give Rice a 1 minute at the end.
All right. I think it's actually going to be quite scoring. I'm going to go for a 3-2 West Ham. I think we're going to see quite a few goals. Yeah. One player we haven't mentioned is our keeper. Our goalkeeper is fucking superb. And if it's going to be low scoring on their side, it's going to be because of him. He's just unbelievably good. I didn't realise just how good Fabianski was. I really didn't realise how good he was.
Is extremely,
some of the saves from Salah. Some of the saves from Salah he made look so easy, and they were literally hitting for top bins, and he's made it look super easy. But
taking it away from the movie stars diving saves, the commanding, strong, he commands that box like no keeper we've seen for a long time, to be fair. Corner, see when the balls are coming in from a distance, when they're getting crossed in from a corner, from a free kick, you can see him making his run, and you can see he's got that vision. He knows his path, and he kind of also goes, if you're in my path, it does not matter. You're getting knocked the fuck out of my path. And that's what I love about Fabianski. And, you know, I'll take my hats off to the guys who followed his career, because I didn't massively when he went down to Swansea. But he's really come in and proven his worth. And it's just a shame that we hit that bit of a blip in the defence, because it really wasn't down to Fabianski. And, still, I couldn't agree with you more. He has been brilliant. And, you know, it's just exciting times, hopefully.
So I'm going to change my score now and say 3-1, the same as Rich.
Go on, Stone.
Well, I'll tell you what then, I'm going to take the 3-2 one. I'm going to take a 3-2 win to West Ham. So fingers crossed we can get something. I think we'll get a couple of well-known goal scorers, and maybe someone will creep up and who's unknown, hasn't scored for us yet in the league, Diop or maybe
Oggy.
Listen, I tell you what, we discussed it. I don't know what he was on against Liverpool. He was on some performance-enhancing drugs. The guy, I seen a tweet kicking about saying, "Do not drug test Ogbonna because West Ham will get relegated." And it's so true, but I mean, listen, if he continues to perform like that, like long may it continue. But
if he does the eyes, the Maradona eyes like that, straight into the screen, you know there's something wrong.
He did everything in that game that I said he's crap at. He did it. He done the opposite to everything I've said, and he was really, really good. And fair play to him. And to be fair, the op was good. And through time, maybe the partnership can generate something, but I do think, and I think we all know, as long as Balbuena comes back fit, we have missed him, and it will be really important to have. It'll just be important to have 3 central defenders that are fit that we can rely on in theory. So that's going to be massively important. So anyway, Richard, you've said 3-1. Still, you've gone 3-1. I've gone 3-2. Let's see if we can quickly read some comments. We've got Dr. Gas has come in and said some fans were saying he was rubbish, Fabianski, because he played for a relegated team. If this guy's saying if Swansea had not had him, the relegation would have been confirmed some games earlier. There was one guy in our group that was actually really, really sticking up for him and saying that he really, gave them something to fight for. So yeah, completely agree with you. Some people are going in. Welsh Hammer saying a 3-1 win to West Ham. The Pablo is saying 2-1 to West Ham. There's loads of comments in there. We'll try and reply to you as much as we possibly can. Make sure you tune in to all our new shows. We've got shows coming out our ears, left, right and centre. I mean, you literally don't have to watch any box sets. You don't have to subscribe to Netflix. You just come over, subscribe to Irons United, and we will feed your West Ham information. 2-3 shows a day. You ask us, we'll deliver. We continue to do it. Subscribe, like, follow us all and all that rubbish, and get your comments in. He's been Richard. He's been Stella.
Hang on, I've got to say a few shout outs for Saturday.
Right, go for it.
We're going to see Cess, Dan, the other Dan,
Dan.
Wiggy. Wiggy's going to watch out for Wiggy's shit shirt. And of course, the beautiful Hammerette Katie's going to be there, and a few others. So come on, you irons.
Yeah, exactly. Let's get behind the guys. Come on, you irons.
Come on, you irons.